All right, everybody, welcome to the main stage here at the Boston Marathon Expo. We hope you're having a good day so far. And we're joined now by the one and only Meb Keflezighi. Meb, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, TK. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back with you.
Meb, you are joining us virtually this year. We know you would have been with us in person, but you've moved. Where you used to be in California, and now you live in Florida?
I am in Tampa, Florida. We drove all the way from San Diego to Tampa.
What was that like?
A marathon.
Every
day for yeah.
How many days was it?
It took us 6 days. We left Saturday. We got in Friday night. We left Saturday around noon, and with the family, and drive for like 8 hours or so, and then spend the night and eat dinner, and then drive another breakfast, and then drive another 7-8 hours, and we stopped by Grand Canyon. Our middle child Fiore, who's wanted to hike it, so we stopped at Grand Canyon and hiked, and then we stopped by New Orleans and all that stuff. So it was quite an adventurous trip, but we made it home safe and no tickets, so that's a good thing.
What month and year was this move? What month and year did you guys make this trip?
Yeah, we were June 2019.
So yeah, peak Florida heat.
Right.
And who's on the team? You, Jordanos, your wife,
yeah.
and run us through the children.
Sara is the oldest one, Fiore in the middle, and then Johanna is the youngest one. And we just, our Toyota Sequoia was filled up with stuff and belonging, and the rest of the other stuff is just drive safely. Jordanos will drive for 4 hours or 5 hours. I'll drive for another 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever exchange. And the kids are having a good time, and adventures. Try to stop at some areas where it was reasonable to stop. We stopped by also Flagstaff area for dining in and things like that, but it was just more direct, but at the same time try to make after 7.5, 8 hour drive, then closest hotel that you can get it and stay put and eat, and then the next morning eat breakfast and head out, and then keep doing that, I guess, for about a week.
Yeah. When you were in Boston in 13 and 14 and 15, I remember seeing small children running around the city with you. I don't think they're so small anymore, Meb. How old is Sarah now? And Fiore, and how old's everybody?
I remember when I did first Boston, 2006. She was just born in March. So she is 14. She's going to be a freshman in high school. And we have Fiore, who's going to be going to 7th grade. And Johanna is going to be in 5th grade.
Wow.
So,
time flies.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure saw him to the lobby and things like that, go running around and all those days in like 2010 and 2014 and all that stuff. But yeah.
How have you been staying motivated during these times? I mean, you've always kept a high level at the highest level of physical activity at an elite level, and now even still you're keeping very active. How do you keep yourself motivated during these times?
Being motivated is pretty hard, but you have to have a routine that works for you and be committed to it, not on the day of, but the night before. Visualize yourself, okay, I'm going to go to bed early so I can get up early and go for a run and start your day that way. So you have a routine. By having a routine is important because, you rather just, especially here, with the temperature in Florida, you got to get done early. Otherwise, if I don't run before 9:30 or 10 o'clock, I'm not going to get it done. So I better get out of the door as soon as I can. And, but, I do miss the interaction with people. It was always fun and pleasure to see people. I think it was this week, maybe 4 days ago, 3 days ago, that I put on my Twitter about the sunrise. And I remember I tell the lady, you are the first one. I usually ask people to take a picture or me running or background or whatever. Hey, sorry to bother you. She had a little boy, Grant, I think is his name. And can you take a picture? And I said, this is the first time I'm asking after COVID, and she felt fine and whatnot. But or usually I see couple taking a picture. I'll be like, hey, let me take the picture of you, whatever. So they're taking of each other or doing a selfie and things like that. And they're always grateful. So the interaction has been very, very limited, but at the same time, I think you have to get out of your comfort zone, or you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, as we say in the marathon. And so, it's a very tough situation we dealt with, but you can only do what you can control, keep doing what you can control. I mean, I always carried hand sanitizer with all the appearances that I make, and whether I'm wearing a suit or jeans, or going to the airport, I always have hand sanitizing. I've always been careful and things like that, wash my hands and not touch my nose or eyes or ears, stuff like that. So for me, it was not new to do those things, but I have to make sure the kids, even when I would train for the Boston Marathon or New York City Marathon or the Olympic Games, I tell the kids, as soon as you step out to inside the house, you got to wash your hands. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't, but we always take a precautious measurement to be able to be a healthy lifestyle for all of us.
There are a lot of people who are running their own virtual Boston Marathon this week. It means for a lot of them, a lot of solo miles, as is the case sometimes with training for the marathon. But here they'll be doing their long and virtual Boston Marathon alone in many cases. What guidance might you have as someone who's logged plenty of miles by himself?
What I would recommend them is to be patient. The marathon, visualize yourself running the Boston Marathon, whether it's starting at Hopkinton. When you are there, say, hey, I've done this before. I'm going to have 26.2 miles ahead of me, and I'm going to calm down at the beginning because of the narrow downhill. So place yourself into that. And then when, all those miles that you put in training preparation and has going to pay off. So now, unfortunately, the only disadvantage you have is 26 miles is always 26.2 miles wherever you are. But the beauty of it is the camaraderie of the people that you run with and the support that you get from the crowd. And you're not going to have that, but at the same time, this is a temporary event going on. You just do what you got to do it virtually, and look forward to what the next chapter of our life holds. Hopefully there will be opening where we can come to Hopkinton and run on Boston Street toward that finish line and smiling and with people on both sides of the aisle cheering, and your family members or friends or whoever is there for you. So, but at the same time, this is where running can be, in some ways, is very individual, and you have to take advantage of that. And we are grateful for those we've been able to train on trails or dirt or roads that we have during this pandemic. So, we were not hindered by it. So the training, you just gotta now run it virtually for the Boston Marathon.
26 miles is a long way. You've run 26 of them, at least. We'll talk about your book, 26 marathons. I wish I had the cover. I had just taken the cover off of it. But in this book, there you go. There it is. There it is. And in this book, you outline the lessons you've learned in all 26 of the marathons that you ran. And they run the gamut from perfect days to awful days to injury, battling through injury to sustaining injuries in the race. We'll touch on a couple of these things. But before we do, I just want to give a little bit of background for folks who might be hearing from you for the first time or not familiar with your story. You are the only person to win the New York City Marathon, the Boston Marathon, and an Olympic medal. You've run, of those 26 marathons that you've run a lot of them under sub 2:10. You were a 3-time national champion in cross country at UCLA, and you moved to the United States from Eritrea when you were 12 years old, when your father really journeyed across Northern Africa to get to Europe. Meb, you're from a large family. Can you give us just a quick synopsis of the remarkable journey your father took to get you guys out of a bad situation in Eritrea, where there's a civil war going on, and into Europe, and then eventually the US?
Thanks, TK. I mean, it is very humbling to be able to share my story with you and the rest of the crowd. But my humble beginning started in Eritrea, in Horn of Africa. That was a war that was going against Ethiopia that lasted for eventually 31 years. And I was born in the middle of it. And my dad was aiding the Eritrean soldiers, so he was wanted by the Ethiopian soldiers. So he has to, he was a wanted man, so he's gonna get prison or killed. So my mom kind of encouraged him to see if he should save his life, but he didn't want to do it because he has a wife and 5 kids and one on the way. But they had understanding within each other that if it's my mom was expecting another baby, number 6, and if it's a boy, call him Be'imnet. If it's a girl, call her Amina. That I will take this trip, but I hope to make it a safe land, and call him or her Be'imnet or Amina, which means with belief that I will save you guys after this if I make it a safe land. So that's the destiny they took to each other and promise they made to each other. And fortunately for him, he over 225 miles is what he has to hike and walk and things like that in the middle of the wilderness where there's hyenas, scorpions, snakes, and also wanted men by the Ethiopians. So you have to be careful, kind of mend in with the people and navigate in a certain ways. And he would get about 5 in the morning, walk until 10, and then kind of mend it with the people. And then at night he would go, and it's not like in the United States where you have, hey, let me book a flight like I did coming from San Diego to Florida, book a flight book flight, or in this journey that we did driving to here, we were rooming in a hotel. He didn't know where the next night he's going to sleep at. So it was a very difficult situation for him. And then I talk about Run to Overcome, my autobiography. At one point he was gun pointed. So if that trigger would have gone off, none of this would have been possible. So, but through the mercy of God, he made it. And then he always looked after us. And, growing up in Eritrea, the child, not much memory of kids, serious. You got to go fish for yourself, go find woods or bark from a tree or leaves so you can have fire to cook your food or boil your water. And if you had, you got to go to the well and get water. It's not like turn the faucet and you have it here, and but no opportunities for the school as much either. It's through lottery or the biggest goal was you're going to be a farmer and survive. That's the biggest thing that was, if you, especially in the village. But my parents always understood the educational opportunity, even though my mom never went to a formal school or my dad only had 7th grade education. But eventually they understood that, and he wanted, as any parents, they want to have the best opportunities for their kids. And my mom has to move from her village where her siblings are to be closer to Asmara, which is the capital of Eritrea, so that we can be able to, be closer to learning. And, the only fun part of my childhood when I was there was playing soccer, and it wasn't a soccer ball, it was a makeshift of cloth stuffed in with plastic so it could bounce. And that was the most fun part of it. But, you do what you can. And fortunately we didn't see our father for age of 5 to 10 for me for 5 years. And I remember running in Athens when we were first time flying, not knowing the language. And I remember running at the airport of Athens, and I went to my dad to give him a hug, and he goes, Merhawi. And he goes, Merhawi is my youngest brother, about 4 years. And he's like, I'm like, no, it's Meb Ratom or Meb. And he's like, oh my goodness. He just went to tears. I remember just like, my kids, how about those people that don't have the support that you guys been getting? And he was expecting me to be taller and stronger and whatnot. And I was a little tiny kid. And he just says, I remember my mom telling him, don't worry about their heights or weights. Just make sure all 6 of them are here, because for her, it was a big burden for the last 5 years to be without her husband, and challenging situation where you have to go, farm and cut the crops and separate from the haste the seed, and then you have grind it, and it's just laborious amount. But fortunately we made it, and then we went to Italy. We had my half sister Ruth, and her mom Letta Michael was able to help us and have my dad to help us escape. And then it was actually their boss, Dr. Brindisi, who kind of funded that money for us. He gave my dad 10 million lira cash in 1986. That was about $6,000 that helped us escape from the war-torn country of Eritrea. And after that, we were having fun. We were playing soccer in the field. That was what my dad wanted to do every Saturday. And Italy was a place of peace, but the United States was a land of opportunity. So they tried hard to try to sponsor the Red Cross to sponsor us to come to the United States. And on October 21st, 1987, that worked out. We came to beautiful San Diego, and because my sister Ruth was living there, and the rest is history, and we feel very fortunate. But my parents always told us, you work hard in the United States. If you work hard, great things are going to happen to you, and don't waste the opportunities that we didn't have, your cousins don't have, your uncles don't have. So make sure you maximize your ability. So they always said academics, academics, academics. That was the most important thing to them and to us. And we worked extremely hard. And that year, my oldest brother, who was placed in a ninth grade, imagine yourself without knowing the language, he placed in ninth grade in survival, and he got his name is Futsum, and he got the most outstanding student at Roosevelt Junior High next to the zoo. And he says, see, and gave the trophy like about my palm of my hand. And he says, see, in America, hard work does pay off. And they will so proudly put that trophy at the top of the TV before the flat screen TV was created. And he said, see, that's the motivation that you need to work, and good things will happen to you. And then that was in the same junior high in seventh grade, that PE teacher Dick Lord said, if you work hard, you're going to get A or B. If you mess around, you're going to get D or F. He says, run the mile. If you run 6:15 or faster, you're going to get an A. And wow, I just wanted to run fast, get there as quick as I can. And to his surprise and mine, I ended up running a 5:20 mile. And he goes, you're going to go to the Olympics. And well, I didn't know what the word Olympic meant. I'm like, t-shirt, give me an A and whatnot. And he called the high school coach, Ed Ramos, and he said, hey, this little one is good, because two of my oldest brothers were running, but he saw the potential in me. And actually, my brother was faster than I was, but I was starting young, so I kind of, had a little advantage. And then I asked my dad that evening, what does the word Olympic mean? He's like, why? He's like, well, the PE teacher said I'm going to the Olympics. He said, what'd you do? And I tell him I ran a 5:20 mile, and he goes, tell the truth. I don't think your oldest brother ran that fast. So, and that's how it all started for me.
That was certainly how the running career started. And he turns out that middle school coach was one of several great coaches you had over the years. I want to just go back to your mom.
He's a big time Red Sox fan, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Boston and all that stuff. So, and I was a miler. I didn't know about marathon then, but I think he had the B hat and whatnot. He always was, and I'm still in touch with him till last week. A week ago, I was still in touch with him from seventh grade, 1988.
I knew I liked that guy. Hey, I have marveled at the trip that your father took and the courage that it took, but I don't want to forget about the courage that your mother had to, she had a good point when you guys arrived at the airport in Athens. Like, they're all here, they're all alive. Like, what a job she must have done. My goodness.
My mom is very soft-spoken, but she is one of the wisest people I know. But she needs to do what she needs to do to give the best for the kids. We are 10 of us, brothers and sisters, and we all think we are all her favorite, which is amazing thing to do, to have 10 kids and you feel like you're the number one, and it's a special skill that she has, but no education by formal, but life experience. And she's amazing, amazing individual, and grateful for her. And, it's like I said, the labor she did, she has to work, you just imagine a land open farm. You have to have somebody come and say, can you help me with this farm? And then you gotta plant the seeds, hopefully it rains, and you gotta chop the plant, and then you have to put it in a circle thing with floor where the oxen can come and step on and separate the haze from the cloves of the seeds. You gotta separate that, and you gotta stash the seeds in a storage because it might not rain next season and whatnot, and recycle. And then you have to take those seeds, take them to grind it yourself with a rock and a smooth surface boulder, and you got flour. So she's an incredible woman. I know I talk about a lot about, many people have heard me about my dad, but she's also equally, and if not more, as impressive.
When you after you ran your first marathon, it was New York City, right?
Yeah.
New York City in 2002, right?
Correct.
So you finished this race and you're like, I'm glad I tried it, but I'm never going to do one of those races again. That was a ridiculous distance to pursue. I'm a 10,000 guy. I'm a 5,000 guy, whatever. And then you went to Eritrea and your perspective kind of changed. This is something you touch on in the book.
Yeah, I talk about the 26 marathons. I learned through faith, identity, running, and life in general from the 26 experience. But yeah, my first marathon was, I'm glad I did it, but at the same time, I'm glad I didn't stop after that because in high school, I had a parent of my teammate goes, Mike Anderson. He goes, "You're going to be a beautiful marathoner." I'm like, "How far is that?" He's like, 26.2. I'm like, "Nope, not me, not me." And Ron Tab eventually, who helped me on the side, he said, "You're going to be a beautiful marathoner and things like that." I'm like, ah, man, I'm a miler. I'm a miler. I'm a 5K and 10K. And my parents were there to witness my first marathon. And I ran that marathon, I felt comfortable going in strong, but at the same time, a lot of unknowns. And I'm mile 16, First Avenue, New York City Marathon is electrifying. It's just blazing fast, and I felt great. I took the lead. I got down to 4 people. I'm like, worst scenario, I got fourth place. Best scenario, I can get first, second, or third. And it was 38-degree temperature. So the water has been sitting there for a while. I threw my beanie away. I threw my gloves away. And I was just, instead of tucking in, and after about mile 20 or 19, I hit the wall and I'm getting slower and slower. Instead of doing nice cadence, I'm stomping. And I'm having a tough time, but I was determined to finish and to get the A standard for to go to the Olympic or to qualify was 2:12, and I ended up running 2:12:35, which so is 35 seconds less slower. So I'm like, no way, this marathon is not for me. I never want to do it again. I remember my mom was there. She's like, 5K, 10K, okay, no more marathons for you, And Coach Larson was there, and he says, you know what, I heard this before, and many people have said that, so it's like, and then when I went back 2 weeks later, I went back with my mom to Eritrea, and for the first time since 1985, so it was 17 years or so that I, went back to see my roots, my uncles, cousins, and relatives, and I saw how where my roots was and how hard they were working. I said, nobody told me to do a marathon. It was a personal choice. And yes, I struggled the last 10K or the last 45 minutes or so, but it was my choice. And I said, I can't wait to go back and work harder because I got inspired by those Eritrean people there and kids and uncles and cousins. So I said, you know what, Coach, I went to Coach Larson. I'm like, I even tell him, Coach Larson, I'm ready. I want to do Boston. And he says, well, Boston is same difficulties as New York. So we need to get that 35 second. You might have to wait until the fall to do Chicago. And that's what I did. But I was excited. And to this day, sometimes I look back, I'm like, man, with that eager that I have, the desire that I have, I mean, I should have gone to Boston,
Yeah.
because the edge was on my side.
The second marathon you ran was Chicago, nice and flat. Again, you were gearing up at that time for the Olympic trials, right?
Right.
And to get sub 2:12. So then you go run Chicago, and I think this is the second chapter in the book. And for the first time, you were not racing for the win. You were just racing for a certain time. And you watched the leaders just go, and that must have killed you.
It did. It was a hard decision to make because I'm a racer at the high school level, at the collegiate level, at the national level. And that day, though, it was to run 2:12 or faster, and those guys were going to go fast. And I said, you know what, as hard as it is, I just got to bite it and let them go. But it was very difficult to do because as a competitor that I am, but my goal was to get sub 2:12 and, have a pacer with me to go. And he went about, I believe it was 8 or 10 miles, and then he has to pace New York in 3 weeks. He was having hamstring issues, so I ran by myself the rest of the way. By eventually, I ended up kind of in 7th place. I ended up running 2:10:03, which is over 2.5 minutes faster than I did in New York. And I said, I went for cool down, so I never discovered that hit the wall in Chicago. It's probably one of the few marathons I never hit the wall. But I went for cool down. I felt excited. I said, this could be fun. It kind of gave me a different perspective. And then I was so excited about it. And then maybe for the trials, but then I got, with the flu, and then I had tendonitis in my knee, and because I was getting ready for the trials in October 2003, and then February in Alabama was trial. So I had a great build up, and then I got set back again during the holidays. But I just said, I even 7 weeks or so before the trials, I remember calling Coach Larson. I said, I think I should scratch out of the marathon trials because I'm not in shape and I'm having trouble. He just said, just wait and see what happens. And then, you know, things will turn out. And then it turned out for the best for me. And I ended up getting second to Culpepper on that race.
Yeah. So this is Birmingham, February 2004, right? Right. To gear up for the
Correct.
Athens Olympics in '04. So now you go to Athens. It's 2004. It is your second time to the Olympics. And you walked out of there with a little bit of hardware. That must have felt pretty good.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, to be able to be in the represent the United States, such a great honor, and to be able to do that at the Sydney, Australia Olympics in the 10,000 meters, it was a lot of fun. And first event, get it over with, 2 weeks vacation. You can see a lot of great things and or different events, different ventures, and you know, vacation basically. But in the marathon, so as you alluded to, TK, that I ran second at the marathon trials, but in the 10K, I also made the Olympic team. I won the trials. I had the American record and then championship record. So my chances of doing well at the Olympics were more in the 10K than the marathon. I was the 39th fastest guy going into them in the marathon, but you have to believe in yourself and your team. And you know, in the Olympic Games, there's 3 prestigious events that people can have eye on the marathon, the 100-meter and the 1500 meters. So I decided, you know what? No American has gotten a medal since 76. I decided to give it that a shot, but it was a tough decision because, you know, if I wanted to be an Olympian, I could have gone to 10K and have 2 weeks vacation like I did in Sydney. But in the marathon was the last event, and everybody's done partying and things like that. You're like, I still got 26.2 miles to go, and people are changing uniforms and things like that. But I was determined, and especially when Dina Castor won the bronze medal, we trained together in Mammoth Lakes with Coach Joviho and Bob Larson, and we were like, we're doing the right track. And then when I competed there, you know, visualizing where I met my dad in Athens, Greece, and to be able to represent our country and to be able to just, it's like a movie flashback. It's like, oh, the 7th grade PE teacher telling you this, now you represent your country. And then now you are like, just imagining yourself flashback. Wow, how incredible this, you know, the finish line is not there, but you can see the story unfold in front of you. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go for Stefano Boldini. The Lima's behind me. I'm happy to just win a medal. Any hardware is good hardware. And so delighted to be able to bring home the Olympic silver medal.
The road to get, did you lose the medal or the wreath? What happened? Didn't you lose the wreath after it was placed on your head? I mean, it must have been a whirlwind for you.
It was. I mean, it was the last event. I already was packed to come for my first date with my wife at the time. Not we even have our first date. We didn't even have boyfriend, girlfriend yet. So I finished, it says PM race. It was 6 PM race, finished around 8:15, whatever. And then they take us to finish the old stadium, took us to the new stadium. And then we have to do media and drug testing there. And I was drinking so much water to get me because I was getting drug tested. And then, you know, during the press conference, I have to go to the restroom, and I left my laurel wreath on the counter where the press conference was, where we are. And little did I know that that laurel wreath was gone. Olive laurel wreath from the original, from the Athens, you know, and but luckily somebody got me one. But yeah, that was kind of sad. And then I hand carried this bouquet for my first date, all the way from Athens to Tampa, Florida, 4:50 flight. So we have to leave the hotel at like 2:50, be there at the airport by 2:50 or so, and then catch a 4:50 flight. And then the lady at the flight attendant is like, well, those are nice flowers. Can I keep them? I say, sure can, for the next 6-7 hours, but I need them back. And you know, and then carry those for our first date. And I remember it was in Tampa, and then we went to, my wife took me out that day for, you know, Olive Garden. And then you can see that, you know, the guy's like, didn't I just see you on TV? And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't just in Athens. He's like, well, welcome to the United States, and thanks for representing the country, you know. You know, and I'm telling, this is our first date. And one night he's like, well, this is in the house, take care of whatever you need to order up. So quite a bit.
So these are flowers that you were given as part of like finishing second.
Correct. Yeah, they give you the bouquet.
Yeah. And you're like, I know what I'm doing with these. You brought them home, you kept them alive flight to flight to flight, all
On
the
a
way to
vase, yeah,
Tampa.
on a vase, yeah. The flight attendant put on a vase, and then I remember, yeah, carry those. She put it on the plane for me, and then she gave it to me when I took off, and then
And this was for your first date with Jordanos.
yeah, I started right at the high, man. That's
Man, you set a high bar for any other first date. Did you bring the medal with you on the date, like under your shirt? Like, hey, check this out.
No, I didn't do that, but it was probably in the car, or I don't think it's still on the. I didn't have. It's about this big.
Yeah.
It's not like it wasn't my. I left it in the car. I'm pretty sure when I first ate, but yeah, it was with me.
You eventually, thankfully, you eventually set your sights on running Boston. You knew it was a hard course. Coach Larson had told you about it. You had a lot of training growing up with Ron Tabb. We'll speak to him this week on the main stage. Of course, Ron ran very well everywhere, but especially in Boston in 1983. 2006 was the year you decided to go for it. You said in your book it was the fittest you've ever been going into that 2006 race. How did you feel?
Yeah, in 2006, Sarah was just born. I was in Mammoth Lakes training. There's a lot of extra motivation after my daughter was born. And I mean, I was second at the Olympic Games, second in New York, third in New York in 2005. I'm like, I want to go win Boston. And I worked extremely hard and got prepared for the downhills and uphills in Mammoth Lakes, or even in Bishop, which is a little bit when we started Temple, we'd start a little bit on the downgrade and to try to emulate the Boston Course Marathon. And then John Yuda from Tanzania, I believe, just went out in the front. I didn't know he was a pacemaker. He was eventually been a pacemaker for the Kenyans, but he went for it. I'm like, well, if I'm going to win, I better go for him. And I remember Ron Tapp says, don't go faster than 450, but it felt so great. It's just clicking it away, 446, 450, 448, blah, blah, blah. And then next thing I know, I looked at my watch. I says, 102.45. I said, well, this is going to be a great day, or it's going to be a long day, a big PR day, or just long. And then Robert Chariot kind of took the lead by the fire station. And then Benjamin Lima was there in the lead also, because he was not taking the tangent. I was sitting next to him. He was doing zigzag. And I said, I finished that race third place, but I ran 209.56, I believe it was. I was 3 seconds off my PR, and I said, if I can stay healthy, I could still win it. I just made a tactical mistake on that race, but we were going world record pace at the time. So
Yeah.
even though it was a Boston challenging course, I managed to go fast. And then the second half was, like I said, 107. So go 102 and come back 107. It's not very inviting, especially going through those hills. But you learn from your mistakes, and then but I always believe that I had the chance to win the Boston Marathon, but it was a great experience on my first one.
102 through half is that's cruising, as you mentioned. You also had gotten some guidance from Coach Bill Squires, I believe, who lives in the area, and I think had given you some guidance. Perhaps that's how you knew how to run some of these tangents on a new course.
Absolutely. Coach Bill Squires were there. I mean, I remember before I ran the Boston Marathon, I went, you hear the tradition, how great the Boston Marathon is. And, in 2006 in January, I think it was in January, we came down, Coach Larson and I spent 2-3 days or so looking around the whole course, not all at once, but break into segments, the first 10 miles and then the next 16 miles or so. And Coach Bill Squire was there kind of telling us the story behind the races, where maybe some of the runner would just stop and go into the pond and get refreshed on the hot day, or taking the tangent and how to where people make mistakes. So it was very interesting, a great expertise to be able to show me what I can do and what can, be able to do in that course, whether when to save your energy, when moves are expected to be made. And I remember even coming Boston Street, he says, a lot of mistakes made here. You want, it looks the finish line is like right here, but you have to imagine it's 600 meters. So don't pull a hamstring. And that's exactly what I was doing at the 2014 Boston Marathon. I mean, I know we can ask him about that, but it's like, okay, 600 meters, like what he said, don't string your hamstring, don't fall, don't be careful, don't wait. It's not don't sprint too early and all those things. So they became very handy throughout the times that I have run at the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, in 2014, when you were on Boylston Street, a lot of people were saying, "Don't fall down, don't pull a hamstring, don't go, don't don't slow down." We
And
all
don't look too much back. Don't look too much back.
we were all we were all holding our breath. You ran through a lot of different difficulties though through the years. You broke your hip in 2008. You came back to, then you won the New York City Marathon in 2009, which what a phenomenal feeling that must have been. A career highlight, right up there with the silver medal, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, not to win, not go to the Beijing Olympics after becoming a silver medalist. I was hoping to win another medal for our country, but the United States fair and square. If you get top three, you go. If you don't, you don't. And I didn't. Unfortunately, we lost a great friend of mine, Ryan Shea, and that puts life in perspective and don't take things for granted. But to be able to win the New York City Marathon, that was my personal gold medal that I never had. Because I was in a vengeance to say, hey, I'm gonna, any Olympian, the silver medalist was there. Robert Cheria, who won Boston 4 times, was there. John Yuda was there. James Yuda was there who he ran 2:03 change. So it was a race was stacked, and for me to be able to wear that USA jersey and be able to win it at Central Park, where I started my first marathon and my first victory, it was pretty special. And but to overcome the hip injury and then coming back to Boston in 2010, I was ready to do, but unfortunately I had slipped in the ice, pre-patella bursitis, and then also, I fell in the gym when I was snowing Mammoth Lakes and then cleaning the car from the snow. So I didn't start it healthy, but at the same time, coming back to the Boston Marathon 2010, where I gave all that I had and trying to be the first American in a long time to win the back-to-back New York and Boston marathons. But I ruptured my quad at the first, where the fast station is in 2010. I just remember feeling something, but I end up finishing the race. And then, like you said earlier, 2:09:26 or something. So I know I was not healthy to win it, but I still believe it's in the picture. Just got to make the time for it.
when you said you ruptured, you felt something in your quad when you turned at the fire station at mile 17, still 9 miles to go, man. Did you change your form or anything over those last, you still finished fifth. You ran one of your fastest times ever in 2:09:56. How did you mentally push through it? Or did you do something physically to help you?
You definitely have to adapt. I remember just saying, let them go. But at the same time, I got 9 miles to go. So I just got to manage my pain, and I got to manage my, you don't see a rip, but you feel something. It's like, oh man, but just let me go to this hills and then see if I can close the gap. But yeah, you are determined to get to that finish line no matter what. I didn't fall. I didn't, and get sidetracked. But I said, just the beauty of running, as most of them this year will be do virtually, you can slow down. That's the beauty of running. You can slow down, collect yourself, and break into segments. You're on mile 17, you got to make it to 20, you got to make it to 23, and then hopefully finish toward the finish. And that's what I did. But yeah, I was eventually was the left quad that was ruptured, and then I finished though, and with a close to my PR. And but it makes you believe that hard work does pay off, and be still committed to what you want to achieve, and don't throw the towel too soon.
Right. You had some people throw the towel in on you, Meb. You lost a few sponsors through the years as you maybe battled through one injury or another, or one performance that perhaps wasn't up to where they wanted to be. Folks threw in the towel on you. You seemed to only add fuel to the fire when that happened.
Well, absolutely. For me, I can only control what I can control. And some people make a business decision, and that's their decision. But if they consulted with me, hey, what happened at the Boston Marathon? I had ruptured quad, or how come you didn't finish at the New York City Marathon? You didn't win the defending champion. The pressure that you put on yourself and the pressure that you put externally is humongous, because I want to be the best marathoner, not only in the United States, but in the world, the best that I can to win New York, to win Boston. That's what I'm working for. So I don't need extra reduction clause on my contract. I'm driven. If I was getting out of college, you don't know me. Absolutely. I agree with that. But, when Nike let me go, it was frustrating. I remember I was running in Mammoth Lakes, cold February or January, getting ready, hoping to get ready for the Boston Marathon in 2011. And then, thinking, no shoe sponsor, would I still run? Absolutely. I still run today because I love what it feels it gives me. I love to be competitive. I love to win. I love to be the best that I can, not only nationally, but internationally. And sponsors threw the towel on me or race organizations sometimes. And you got to say, you know what? I'm going to work harder because you want to be able to rise to the occasion and be the best that you can. Because at 520, I always look at the 520 seventh grade PE teacher that says you're going to be an Olympian. And for me, money or no money, I'll still run. And that's the way I looked at it, especially in 2011. And I went without shoe contract from January all the way to August until Skechers came to the plate and stepped in big way. And that at the time was one year-to-year base. And here I am, trying to win Boston or trying to make other Olympic team, but you don't get what you think you deserve. God has been good to me though. One big door shuts off. And guess what? At one point, I had like 13 or 14 sponsors, and I couldn't be happier because they believed in me and I believed in them.
Well, you certainly made their investment a good one, Meb. So in 2013, you were not running the Boston Marathon. You are there watching it like many of us. Were you the Grand Marshal in 13 or was it in 12? I can't remember.
12.
So in 2012, the year of the Olympics in where were they in 12? London.
London.
Yep. So that year, you're not competing Boston. You come watch the race as the Grand Marshal. You are celebrated in that way. That's what happens to a lot of people after they've won the Boston Marathon. And you might be the first person to be the Grand Marshal before they had won the Boston Marathon. But let's go to 2013, where you're there watching it, preparing to maybe run someday, and tragedy strikes. Where that rough day, you were in the finish area, Meb, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the first time that I became, I was a Grand Marshal in 2012, but then 2013, I was there for Power Bar and a few other sponsors like UCAN. And I remember, when I talk about that, what it comes to mind is how prestigious the Boston Marathon is. I remember a lady meeting at the Expo. She says, Meb, great to meet you. This is my first time here. And it took me 22 years to qualify for the Boston Marathon. I'm like, wow, what a dedication, what a commitment, whoa. And guess what? I mean, to this day, I wish I had her contact information because she was an older lady, been 22 years to qualify for the Boston Marathon. I did not know if she finished that race or did not finish that race because of what happens. So for me to be at the grandstand as a spectator, because usually I love watching runners come, whether I'm driving or whether I'm running, and when I see people run, I get excited just what that dedication, the hard work and perseverance that goes into it. That day I was just enjoying the race, and I remember sending a text to Ryan Hall. I think 2:10:03 won it. I said, Ryan, we can do this. We believe we can do this. And then, the men and women finished, the wheelchair finish, and then, as people were coming to the finish line, I remember tapping to the volunteers. I say, how Boston is an arch. I said they were closing the other chute, and I said, open that chute because I can see people just for every second they can, they're trying to get that finish line, and you got to do that, and they did, and they opened up, and then I had an appointment for Universal Sports, and I stayed there probably 4+ hours, and I left because I had an appointment because I was going to do a recap. So I said, well, I know who won, but I need to do study of who was in the lead at what point and just dissect a little bit the race. And I left my brother Howie there and many other runners. And as soon as I got to the Fairmont Copley is when I heard an employee from John Hancock tell me that there's a bombing on Boylston Street. And all I could do is throw the F-bomb and just cry. How possible? There's no way, and the rest is history, unfortunately, not for good things. But, we lost 3 lives and in that, and then the police officer eventually a couple of days later, but many wounded. And it's a sad day, and I became good friends with the Martin Richard family. And so it's hard. It's very difficult to talk about it, but I do talk about it because, and then 2014 becomes a bigger play or role that I took. Even that evening of the 2013, and Bonnie Ford from ESPN, I remember she asked me, are you scared? Are you going to bring your girls, or do you feel reluctant to bring back or to compete? What's your thought? I said, I hope to be healthy enough to win it for the people. I said that race, I hope to be back in 2014. I just hope to be healthy enough to win it for the people. So I set that goal for myself that afternoon, and you know, and you know, to be able to live through that for carry it for 365 days, Boston strong, or you see the Red Sox putting the trophy at the finish line. I'm like, I want to do that for the runners on Patriots Day. So you have those dialogue. You constantly with him. When I'm running Mammoth Lakes, you doing the crossing, it's like, oh, God help me, because I want to do it for the runners on that day. So my dream became true. But 2013 was many ways special for me, but a lot of connection also.
You eventually, I think, ran New York that fall, but you trained for Boston 2014 in Mammoth. How was the training and build up for that race compared to other years?
The training was solid. Obviously I was almost 39 years old now. So the age was not in my favor, but I changed my nutrition. I did change my training cycle to 9-day cycle. I used Coach Larson as a mentor, but people on the bike helped me, like Sarah Chavez and Suresh. People cook for me and people work on me. So it was a team effort, and I really thought that was going to be my last Boston Marathon. This is, getting to 39 and see what I could do. But in terms of fitness, it wasn't the fittest I've been. Like I said, I wasn't in that 2006 Boston Marathon fitness, but far away from it. But I believed in myself still, that I could win top 3 or run a personal best. And I'm going to give that. They were saying Boston strong. I'm going to give them Meb strong. And, tactically, I don't want to be arrogant in any way, but masterpiece. When they were trying to slow down at 5 miles, I said, I'm going to go. This is Boston Strong. I'm going to go for it. If they catch me, I'm going to make them earn it. At the end of the day, my goal is to win top 3 or personal best. And if I'm going to do that, I can't wait for them. I just need to go. And I was in the zone with Joseph Boyd, and I don't remember even going through Wesley, which Wesley is the craziest place to be the Boston Marathon, but I don't remember going to the halfway point at all. And eventually I was being beat up. My foot was having issue at mile 16, 17. But, when you are committed, you are committed. But having done the Boston Marathon previous year, big dividend. It paid big dividend, because I know where I wanted to be. I don't want with Joseph Boyd going up this hill. He gave me out of my comfort zone. I wear a watch. I want to make sure I just tackle him. I can see if I'm fading away or not fading away. I was within myself, and coming, at one point that by the fire station where the making of not make is happening, and people were chanting. They're doing the waves and they're chanting USA, USA. There's a picture of me saying USA, USA, but I'm like concentrated on the race, because the emotion was so deep and electrifying of energy. People came out, and for me, it was a thrill of a lifetime. And I didn't know how much lead I had, but I know it's getting shrinking and shrinking. And I do a lot of visualization in training. And I had a dream that it came down to me and another guy on Boylston Street. So I had to think, should I slow down, try to save my energy, or try to maintain the gap, or try to extend the gap? So those thoughts that are going quick seconds. I mean, you got milliseconds to think about those, but I'm grateful for all the decisions that I made them count. And also at the same time, there's a greater power than myself that allowed it to make it happen, because I had the victim's name that I wrote before the race. And that morning, I think that night before the race, to draw inspiration, I wanted to have a picture of them, but taking it out on Boylston is going to be too complicated. So I just wrote it with a big Sharpie, and I wish I wrote it bigger, but because the sponsors get protective, I don't want to do that. So, but it went viral that I had the victim's name. And I remember the story his dad tells me, Martin Richards' dad always tells me, Bill Richards, about that story, where they were, and how people tell him Americans leading the race, and he has his name, Martin's name on his bib. So, and they were on vacation, but now they come and be part of the marathon. So it was interesting, intriguing to hear those stories, what people were. To this day, every day I hear from people say it was where I was when you won the Boston Marathon, and whether I work or on a flight or just, or what mile marks they were. So it was 36,000 people who wanted to do something positive on Boylston, and I just happened to be the fortunate one to lead them to the finish line. And coming on Boylston Street, it was a thrill of a lifetime to just chant USA, USA, and do the cross where the bombing happened, and don't pull a hamstring and get to that finish line. Make sure that the tape touches their chest. So it was a it was an epic moment for me, and it's the most meaningful victory of my career.
When you were running with Josephat Boyd early in the, I mean, relatively early in the race, you and he did separate yourself. Were you speaking with him, or did he just happen to be with you and you were sticking to your watch and your plan, or what was your thinking at that point?
We were good friends. We trained in Mammoth Lakes together, and we just happened to be there. We didn't plan it by any means. We just happened to be there. But I remember mile 7 or 8, I tell them, how come they're not coming? And we just said, like, what are they doing? And kept going. And I remember asking him what was our halfway split, because I remember looking at my watch. It was 13.79 or something. I'm like, I don't remember what the halfway. Do you remember what the halfway is? Like, no, I don't. And then, but no, we didn't talk, but we knew each other from running together in Mammoth Lakes. Yeah, so I think at one point, though, I remember he took the lead, and I just said, be patient. And have another boss. Maybe gave him 5-4-second lead in front of me, but I'm like, no, if I go next to him, we're going to get aggressive. We're going to push ourselves. So I said, back off. So that's another tactic that I use. Instead of going shoulder to shoulder with him when he did that, that would have escalated a little bit the pace. So I had to be very careful with that. But no, just good friends, and happened to be there, and, we help each other out.
Sometimes when us common folk get into marathons, we are very reliant on the watch and each split per mile and how it's doing. And if you miss a split, sometimes there's a moment of panic. You missed the halfway split, a point that how did you stay calm, or were you so in tune with the way you felt that you knew that effort?
Having the watch always helped me, but when I saw that, instead of going to the point of panic or be misguided or not having that information, I just looked at it. Okay, I didn't have that information. You have to be quick on your feet and say, who cares? Boston is about the title anyway. So yeah, I would love to have that information, but I'm here to compete, and Boston is about the title. Don't worry about it. And by looking at the watch, though, going to the Heartbreak Hill or other races and the miles, I can see that, oh, I'm not hitting the wall. So I am within myself. So I always encourage people to wear a watch when they run road races, not on the track, not cross, but when they're running on 5K or to the marathon on the road, they should always wear a watch.
The book in which you can read about this and more is called 26 Marathons. Meb, where you wrote it with Scott Douglas. Meb, where can people purchase the book?
Yeah, and this is our second book with Scott Douglas. Meb for Mortals was the other book that I wrote with him, and that's bringing back memories. And people can get the book on Amazon.com, or they have some Barnes and Nobles or local stores that might have it. But also they can order it to the marathonmeb.com if they want to get personalized, or if they want to give a gift to somebody else and make a special note for them. Hey, good luck at the Boston Marathon or New York Marathon, or happy birthday, or whatever they do. They can go to the marathonmeb.com and order through there.
That's pretty cool. Meb, any well wishes here as folks get ready or are doing their virtual Boston Marathon? What would you tell folks out there getting it done this week?
You haven't made a commitment, you worked hard, and I know we cannot be all together running on the Boston course from Hopkinton all the way to Boylston Street, but you can do this on your own time, your own preference of choice. And sometimes if you're on a hilly course, take that challenge, how tough that Boston Marathon is. And I did that. I did a lot of visualization before I won the Boston 2014. I would imagine myself in position, say, right on Hartford, left on Boylston Street. So you have those streets when you're running. Practice that. Now you have practiced that. Now you got to go virtual and have fun. Yeah, we can be there to give you the support, or we can give you the water that you need, well deserved and need. But at the same time, this is a different year for all of us. But you will remember for the rest of your life. And I always say, run to win. It doesn't mean getting first place, but getting the best out of yourself and go out there and do your best.
Meb Keflezighi, 2014 Boston Marathon champion, and a man who has always run to win. Meb, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you, TK. Best wishes, everybody, and have fun.